For those of you that are Labo fans, you know that the City Exclusives are now available for testing and sampling, and as of September 1st, available for purchase. I have here some full bottles and samples of some, not all, of the City Exclusives by the House of Labo that we're going to talk about in today's video. Hello guys, welcome back. I hope you're all doing great. So in today's video, we're talking Labo fragrances, specifically the City Exclusives, which in the month of August are available for testing and sampling. I purchased a handful of samples. I've gone in the boutique and sprayed many of these on skin. I have some full bottles here, but these are only City Exclusives. I own Labo fragrances that are not City Exclusives, but we're not going to talk about those in today's video. And as a lot of you know, the City Exclusives are at a higher price point, so each of these samples, rather than being $7, are $13. So the fragrances are quite expensive. I'm not a fan of the price point. I think the 100 ml size bottles are close to $500. Some of my fragrances from the House of Labo are from the boutique itself. You will see that in today's video, some of these City Exclusives have the factory label, I will call it. They're not the personalized labels that you would get in the Labo boutique. I'm okay with that. Be careful, there are a lot of imitation Labo fragrances out there. But getting that out of the way, let's move on to talk about what the fragrances smell like. And we'll start with Tabac 28. This one is a Miami exclusive. I was really looking forward to getting my nose on this one and the Benjuin one, and it's nice. This one is a almost watery sort of tobacco leaf, green tobacco leaf, earthy fragrance. Not as heavy and dark as I expected. I thought that there would be something more rich, maybe, or dark or smoky about the fragrance, being that it's a tobacco-centered fragrance, but it's more of a tobacco leaf. The woods in here absolutely develop as the fragrance dries down. It meets the tobacco, and they're very, very prominent. The woods in this fragrance is very prominent. There's a good dose of sweetness in here, and there's cardamom that's sort of providing a little bit of spice. In terms of smokiness, even though I've heard this being described as a smoky sort of tobacco fragrance, I'm not really getting a smoky tobacco. I'm getting something more green, something more of a tobacco leaf, something earthy, and the woods absolutely come into play. And it's sort of a dusty wear, and it almost seems a little bit watery to me. It's not rich and full-bodied, so it's not a fragrance that's going to be too dark. It's not a fragrance that's going to be too masculine. It's not in your face. It's not dark and strong. Even though it is a tobacco fragrance, it's sort of mild in my opinion. And like I said, it's a green sort of tobacco leaf, earthy fragrance with woods. There are definitely woody components in here, and I think there's oud, but there's no skanky oud. It's coming off more like woody notes that meets the tobacco leaf. It's nice. I like this. It's not masculine. It's something that I could wear, but it's not something that I'm looking to get a full bottle of right now, but it is nice. So that is Tabac 28. So the next one is a Moscow exclusive, and this is Benjuin 19. And this one obviously centers around the note of benzoin. So I can't help but to compare this to my bottle of Diptyque's Benjuin Bohème, and they are different. They are different. So this one is less sweet than something like Benjuin Bohème. Yes, there is benzoin in here, but it's not a rich, syrupy, sort of ambery, sweet fragrance. It's dusty, and it actually reminds me, in terms of how it wears, reminds me of the way Tabac 28 wears. So they both conjure, Tabac 28 and this one, both conjure the color brown, like a dusty sort of brown. They have a dusty wear on skin. I would not call them syrupy fragrances. This one is nice. The benzoin is definitely met with woods in here. The woods are very prominent. Again, it seems to be a theme. I think this one has cedar wood. As the fragrance dries down, the cedar wood is absolutely prominent to my nose. I recognize it. The fragrance does warm up as it dries down. I feel like it gets a little bit sweeter as it dries down, but in the opening, it lacks the sweetness. It comes off like a dusty benzoin woody fragrance. I think that this also would be considered unisex, but this one I feel might lean a little bit masculine for me, for my personal taste. And I've had this on skin a few times as well, and I do like it, but I think this one warms up into something a little bit masculine. So it's a dry fragrance, it's a dusty brown fragrance, it's ambery, it is warm, it's definitely warm. I could see liking this in the fall, so it's the perfect season if you like what this sounds like to go get your nose on the fragrance. So that's Benjuin 19, it's a nice one. So the next one is one that I recently spoke about, and this is Mousse de Chene 30. And this one did turn into a full bottle. And this is one of those bottles that doesn't have the personalized label. I'm okay with that. If you find a trusted seller, for me, that's perfectly fine, but there are tons of imitations out there. So I just caution you to be very, very careful. I do have a trusted seller who recently sent me great samples of some hard to find Labo fragrances, but you have to be very, very careful. So Mousse de Chene 30 was a love for me. It wasn't on my radar. I went in the boutique. I sprayed it because the person at the Labo boutique recommended it, and it was sort of a love at first scent for me. So this one is a clean, mossy fragrance. You get the green from this oak moss sort of compound in the fragrance that imitates oak moss. There's a freshness to it with this green oak moss, but then on the other side, there's also patchouli and spices that complement this clean scent profile. Overall, it is a clean scent profile. Overall, it is featuring an oak moss. So there's a freshness to it, but the focus is on oak moss. So it's earthy and it's green, and I really do enjoy this one. I've read reviews and I've heard people say that this one is very synthetic. There are a lot of fragrances from Labo that have sort of a synthetic component to them. I like it. I don't mind. I don't find it disturbingly synthetic. There are plenty of fragrances out there with akigala wood and sort of synthetic woods that are gloopy and thick and sweet. That I can't do. This I enjoy. I like it. This one is a fresh fragrance with an interest, something interesting. It's musky. At the same time, it's clean, and there is that patchouli in here. So it's earthy as well, but I just love this green oak moss aspect to the fragrance. So it's nice. I'm glad I have a full bottle of this one. So the next one is Aldehyde 44. One of the comments to my video recently when I spoke about Mousse de Chene mentioned that Aldehyde 44 won him over this year. So I immediately went to the boutique, tested the fragrance, purchased a sample, and I really would like to get a bottle of this one. I wore this morning as my scent of the morning. I went for a long run. I'm supposedly training for a half marathon, but we'll see. We will see. So Aldehyde 44 is really nice. Oh, if you like Aldahhidic fragrances, this one is really, really nice. It's throwback. It's definitely a vintage style Aldahhidic fragrance with floral components, a clean sort of musky, almost soapy, clean fragrance with floral hints. And the florals in here, I'm not sure if I should use the word indolic, but there's something almost just a tad, maybe animalic or indolic, that remind me of the floral components in Frédéric Malle's Un Fleur de Cassis that I recently spoke about. I want a full bottle of that one as well. It's clean, it's soapy, it's Aldahhidic. It is a little throwback, but modern. Le Labo is a modern sort of take on any sort of vintage style fragrance. Ylang 49 is the one that I can think of right now that's the most vintage-like in this house. This one is hinting at something Aldahhidic and vintage-like. Chanel number 5 comes to mind, but I really do enjoy this. It's just the right amount of aldehydes, complemented by just the right amount of florals, and it's musky and it's clean. It's not too soapy. I like clean, I like soapy fragrances, but there is an effervescence about this. So it's not like Dia, a woman from the house of Amouage, that has more substance to it. This one is more effervescent. This one is more ethereal, let's say. Maybe a more transparent fragrance. A fragrance that conjures up the color white. It was the perfect fragrance for this beautiful sunny morning. It was like 70 degrees this morning, clear skies, sunny. It was perfect. And the dry down of the fragrance, it was on my skin for quite some time. Even after I showered, I felt that I could smell just a little bit of the dry down of this fragrance. It obviously is not as aldehydic as it is in the opening, but the dry down is this almost indolic flower that I'm getting in here. That's what I'm getting. You guys can let me know if you agree, but it's sort of powdery. So I feel like in the end, it's a little bit powdery without being feminine. I don't think that this is an ultra feminine fragrance. Really nice. Aldehyde 44. If you like aldehydic fragrances, musky fragrances, you should definitely get your nose on this one. And I forgot to mention that Aldehyde 44 is a Dallas exclusive. Mousse de Chene is an Amsterdam exclusive. So this one, in my opinion, is 100% unisex. For the people who love aldehydic fragrances, musky fragrances, this is a must try. So the next one I own a full bottle of. This is a 50 ml of Myrrh 55. I heard great things about this and I blind bought this fragrance with no problems, no issue. This is a more recent release than some of the other fragrances. I think Aldehyde 44 was released sometime in 2006, so that's been around for a while. Myrrh 55 was released in 2023 and it is a Shanghai exclusive. So let's start with the name of the fragrance. This leads me to mention what most people mention with Le Labo fragrances. The names almost always or often don't match what the fragrance necessarily smells like. So the name of the fragrance represents the note that there is most of in the perfume. So while in here, myrrh is the component, the note that there is most of, the fragrance doesn't necessarily smell like myrrh. It's not myrrh prominent. This is more of a chypre fragrance. It's a chypre style fragrance with patchouli, not oak moss. It's a jasmine fragrance that is resinous. You do have the myrrh, but you also get the patchouli in here. I have this one on skin. This one is a great one. I really love it. As it dries down, the patchouli starts to become prominent. And even though there's jasmine in here, there's enough patchouli, there's enough of the resinous components that keeps this, first of all, completely unisex, but that keeps the jasmine totally interesting. It doesn't come off like a simple jasmine fragrance. This one, I think, has a lot of fans. I think this is a beautiful fragrance. Because I blind bought it, I purchased the 50 ml. Looking back, I would absolutely get the 100 ml size bottle of this one. I think this is one of my favorites of the City Exclusives, probably along with, I would say, Aldehyde 44 is up there now, even though I purchased Mousse de Chene and then focused on Aldehyde 44. I really like Aldehyde 44, probably more than Mousse de Chene, and this one is probably my favorite of the City Exclusives. So this one has jasmine, there's also ambergris, there's also oud, there's also patchouli and musk. So the fragrance has notes that I don't detect whatsoever. Ambergris, I'm not getting. Oud, there's absolutely nothing skanky about this fragrance. It's jasmine that's sort of dirtied by the patchouli in here, and the myrrh provides a nice resinous quality to the fragrance. It's not sweet. It has sort of a musky component to it, but it dries down a little bit more powdery on my skin. And it really is reminiscent of a cheaper style fragrance. And this is a great one. So Myrrhe 55, I would say that it's my favorite of the City Exclusives, of the ones that I've tried. And I think I've tried them all at this point. So that's Myrrhe 55. So the next one I have a full bottle of. This is the 100 ml size bottle, again without the personalized label. This one is Musk 25, and this one is an LA exclusive. This one I purchased about a month ago, I think. And I've been wearing this along with Guerlain's Musc Oeil Blanc. They're both musk fragrances, and I've been enjoying both of them. I feel like the weather, even though it's still warm, has already changed a little bit. It's not as humid here in New York, but in the humidity, I liked wearing this. I did not get to wear this fragrance a whole bunch, but it's a rather simple fragrance. I don't think this is something super complicated to understand. It's a clean, musky fragrance. It is effervescent, and it has, on the one side, it has something a little bit animalic, slight animalic undertones. On the other side, you have this sort of classic, powdery, slightly floral, just little hints of florals. Musky, a white musk, very classic style fragrance that sort of contrasts this just slight undertone of something a little animalic. I hesitate to use the word animalic. This one is not as animalic as something like Parfums d'Empire Musk Tonkin, also a great musk fragrance, but that one is definitely more animalic. And any animalics in these musk fragrances are synthetic. And it's a nice one. I really enjoy it. It does have a little bit of a soapy component, I would say, but that undertone of something slightly animalic balances that out. So I think that's what Le Labo does well. I think it does nice balancing so that the fragrances don't come off too old-fashioned. They do a great job of keeping things almost sort of unisex, almost. There are fragrances that are super feminine, of course, some of the florals, and I guess there are some that are a little bit masculine leaning, including the Benjuin fragrance, in my opinion, just a little bit. But Musk 25 is a nice one for the musk lovers. It was a great summer fragrance. The little dent that I did manage to put. But like I said, I was wearing this one and also enjoying Musc Oeil Blanc from the House of Guerlain. So I do like that one. So the next one I have a sample of. This is Coriander 39. This one was released only last year in 2024, and this is a Mexico City exclusive. I've had this sample for a while, and I sort of forgot about it. And this is a great one. This one, I feel like it lives in the world of Guerlain's Herbe Troublante. It's different, but it's sort of herbal, and so that's why it reminds me of that scent profile. Herbal, fresh, musky. This one is lime, and it's not a disturbingly tart lime that's too sour. It's lime that's perfectly complemented by this herbal component in here. As if you're familiar with cilantro, I'm a big fan of cilantro, and cilantro is one of those sort of spices that either you hate it or you love it. I really like Mexican food. I like cilantro a lot, and it's as if you take a piece of cilantro and sort of break it open and put your nose to it. There's the citrus component, there's that herbal component, there's a freshness to it. That's what this smells like. It's so great. This one's really nice. There are some spices in here as well, but overall it's an effervescent, sunny fragrance with this lime. It's as if you can imagine a burst of lime when you squeeze a lime. If you could imagine fresh cilantro. It's a sunny fragrance. It's a summer fragrance. It's green. It definitely conjures up an herbal sort of green image in my mind. I definitely enjoy this one. There is an aquatic note in here, but that's not what sort of comes to mind when I get my nose on this fragrance. For me, it's the lime. For me, it's the herbal components, and it's musky, and it's a sunny fragrance. And it's fresh, so I really like it. And it's green. It's definitely a green, fresh fragrance. So that's Coriander 39, a Mexico City exclusive. So next let's talk about an exclusive to Baie. This one is Cuir 28. It's a leather fragrance. And this one was released, I think, sometime in 2016, 2012. So this one is a smoky leather. I feel like it conjures images of a dark brown, sort of worn in, almost oiled leather. There's something oiled about the leather in my mind, and it's definitely smoky. It's smoky right out of the gate. There are woods that come along, there are spices that come along with this leather, but there's something oiled about the leather, and it's quite masculine to my nose. So I just finished saying how a lot of these are unisex. I would say that this one is more clearly masculine for me personally than something like the Benjuin. This one is definitely a darker, dark brown fragrance, an oiled leather with woods. And I've had this on skin, and I made a note that when this dries down, there's this almost synthetic vanilla that meets the leather, that meets the woods in here, that meets the smokiness. And so that's what I would say about this fragrance. It's dark, it's leathery, it's smoky, it's earthy, it's an oiled leather. All of that is great. It's full-bodied, it's dark brown, but there's this vanilla that comes into play that to my nose is synthetic smelling. So that is my take on this one. So that's what I don't like about this one. But it's a smoky, dark leather fragrance, very full-bodied, and definitely does a good job of conjuring up this oiled leather. I definitely have an image getting my nose on the fragrance. So a fragrance that gives you imagery, in my mind, is always a good thing. So that's a Cuir 28. So I also got my nose on, without purchasing samples of a few other fragrances, I got my nose on Baie 26, which is a Chicago exclusive. And that one features rose, but it's an effervescent rose. It's kind of a bright take on rose. I think it's musky. I think it's sort of aldehydic. I think the rose in that one comes off pink, and it's a very rosy fragrance. It's effervescent. It's very different from Rose 31, which I own. I prefer Rose 31, which to my nose sort of gives me the imagery of a darker red rose that's dirtied with the cumin. I find it more interesting. I find it sexier. Baie Rose 26, on the other hand, is a little bit brighter. The rose seems to be like a powdery pink. It's effervescent. It's spiced. It's definitely spiced, and it's definitely sort of an aldehydic take or delivery on the rose fragrance. It's a brighter take than Rose 31. I prefer Rose 31, so I did not buy a sample of that one. And if I didn't mention, that one is a Chicago exclusive. And then I got my nose on Vanille 44, which is the Paris exclusive. And that one's really nice. I'm tempted to purchase a sample of that and test it on skin. I'm not the biggest fan of vanilla fragrances, but that one is a woody take on vanilla. There's something dry, but at the same time, it also comes off a little creamy and spiced. It's not gourmand. That's what I like. I would not consider Vanille 44 a gourmand take on a vanilla note in a fragrance. I think it's more woody. And then you have this, I think, mandarin note in there, or orange note. There's something a little bit citrusy that complements, but overall, I would say that it's sort of a dry, vanillic, woody fragrance with some spices, and the orange, that citrusy, which is not too bright because it's a warm vanilla. It's not too bright. It sort of complements. You get that as just a hint in the fragrance. But it is a nice vanilla fragrance. It is simple, and I may get a sample of that one as well. So that's it for today, guys. That's my take on these city exclusives from the house of Labo. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I did not purchase samples or fragrances of all the city exclusives. There were a few, like the Gaiac one. I can't remember the number. The Gaiac one, to me, even though it's a popular one, I wasn't really a fan of that one. And then there was another citrus one, Cedre something. I was not a fan of that one either. So the ones that I spoke about were the ones that I was interested in. Let me know in the comments if you guys are familiar with any of these. And as always, thank you so much for watching, your support, and your comments. Until next time, bye guys.